Today, we're going to build this. 2 custom and unique sliders that integrate completely with Webflow. No custom code, no confusing implementations. Sliders are generated by Finsweet components and then styled with Webflow Designer. Finsweet slider looks just like a normal element in Webflow Navigator because it is a normal element in Webflow Navigator. We can style this entire slider to match our brand perfectly. This video is a step-by-step tutorial on how to build this slider component. Let's do it.
That's effing sweet.
Let's start here with the first slider. It is a team member carousel. We have our standard previous and next buttons up here and the custom slider dots down here. Now let's get into Webflow Designer to build this. And we'll open the Apps panel. Then launch Finsweet Components, select the slider component, and here in the left sidebar, we have our Configure tab. This is where we can change the options of our slider. We can use static or CMS content, change direction to vertical, use loop, and center slides. We can use pagination and navigation modules with the slider. And we can also define slides per view, slides per group, and space between slides by breakpoint of the project. We have a lot of features here. You can play around with the configurator and super customize your slider. Each time you make a change, the result is shown in the preview panel on the right. Up here, you can also preview your slider by breakpoints. Let's generate our slider with the default options. I'll select the div block that I want to add the slider inside. Before creating the component, I'll add the slider name, Team. The name of the slider is integrated into the name of the classes that are added to our slider component. Let's click on Create CMS Slider and then Confirm. Nice, our team slider was generated on the page. Let's look at the structure of the slider in the navigator. We have our team instance that is the parent element of our component. Inside the instance, we have the list wrapper and the navigation, and in the list wrapper, we have the list and the slides. Inside the navigation, we have the buttons and the pagination that contains the bullets. You know us at Finsweet. All these elements have custom attributes added to them, and these attributes are required to make the solution work. So please do not remove these attributes. When we created this component, we also added custom code to the project. To see this custom code, you can go to Site Settings, Custom Code, and check the code by clicking View Script. This custom code is required to make the solution work, so please don't remove it. Now let's go back to Webflow Designer. I'll select the list wrapper and connect it to the CMS collection Team Members. Now we can style the CMS slider however we want. We're going to bring this slider to life by working natively in Webflow just like we would style any other element. Styles panel, classes, combos, colors, it's all possible. First, I'll remove this placeholder text and select the slide. Remove the padding. Remove the default background, and with the slide still selected, I'll paste my team card component. Great, now let's go connect all of these to CMS fields. This is the image, this is the name, and this is the job title. Now let's publish to confirm the slider works. There it is, it's working. Let's now continue styling it and get back in Designer. I'll select the navigation and remove the padding. And also the background color. Let's style the pagination bullets. I'll select this bullet element and change the width to 2 rem and the height to 0.25 rem. I'll set a radius of 1 rem and change the background color to white. For the active bullet, Finsweet Components adds the combo class is bullet active. I'll change the background color to blue for this combo class. Let's update these buttons to match our branding. I'll change the background color to blue and radius to 0.25 rem. And there we go, that's looking good. Okay, we can also reorder and move elements inside the navigator. As long as everything stays inside the instance wrapper, it's going to work. So, for example, you can move a button outside of the navigation wrapper and it will still work. But you can't move a button outside the instance wrapper. The slider will not work. Let's move the pagination outside of the navigation wrapper and bring this header inside the instance. Then let's put this navigation wrapper inside the header element. I'll change the alignment to bottom right, and that's looking good. To finish, let's select our pagination and add margin top of 2 rem and align to the left. Look at that custom slider connected to Webflow CMS and all without code. Before we go, let's talk about edit mode. Let's say we want to update the slider that we just created. Edit mode allows you to do that. Just select any element of the slider that you want to edit and open Finsweet Components. Then you are inside edit mode for this slider instance. Many of the options are available for editing. For example, I can change the initial slide to 3, increase the transition to 500 milliseconds, turn on loop, and here in the desktop breakpoint, increase the gap to 32 pixels. We can click on Update Slider and confirm those changes. All the changes are implemented on the slider instance. Quick note that we don't see space between slides here in Webflow Designer. The space between each slide is added to the slider component on the published page. For a final touch, let's select the list wrapper and change overflow to visible. This is a nice visual to show that the slider has more slides, and it also gives it a nice custom feeling. Let's publish and check the updates. Now you can see that we have the 32 pixel gap between the slides and the slider's working, and when we reach that final slide, it loops back to the first one. This slider is looking great and it functions exactly the way I want it to. Now let's take this ultimate slider tutorial to the next level and build something more complex. When you learn how to use thumbs and controller, you have endless possibilities to create custom sliders in Webflow. And this video shows those two features exactly, thumbs and controllers. In this case, we have 3 connected sliders. When one moves, they all move. Here in the center, we have our first slider with the image of the sneakers. Our second slider is laid over it, and it has the text of the sneakers. And then the third slider is up here in the top right. This is the thumbs or thumbnail slider. And we're going to use all 3 of these to create a next level experience for our content. So let's implement it. In Webflow Designer, let's open the Apps panel, open Finsweet Components, select Slider. Let's keep CMS selected, horizontal, and really most of the default options. I'll change Effect to Fade, remove pagination, remove navigation, and also change slides per view to 1. I'll name this slider Images and click on Create Slider. There it is. We have our first slider here generated on the page. I'll select the slider list wrapper, go to Settings, and connect it to the CMS collection Sneakers. Let's select the placeholder and remove it. Select the slide element and add an image inside. This image will be connected to the image field of our sneakers collection. I'm going to give this element a class called images_full. I'll change the width to 100%, height to 100 VH, then change fill to cover. I'll select the slide and remove the default padding. Great, our first slider is designed. Now let's add our second slider with the text of the sneaker. This is going to be our main slider with the navigation arrows and the pagination fraction. Let's open the Finsweet Components app, go to Slider, scroll down to Pagination, and update type to fraction. And then let's go down to the desktop breakpoint and change slides per view to 1. I'll name this main and click Create Slider. Confirm. There it is. Now let's connect the second slider to CMS. I'll select the list wrapper and connect it to the same sneakers CMS collection. Now let's select the instance wrapper of the slider and change position to absolute and full. This will bring it in front of the slider image and over it. Select and remove the placeholder. Select the slide. Change the height to 100 VH. Align child elements to the center. And remove the background color. Inside the slide, let's add a text element. I'll name it main_heading and connect it to the name CMS field. We're going to write the styles for this text element on the parent element main slide. The text element will inherit styles from here, and I'll explain why soon. It will all make sense. On the slide class, I'll change the font color to white, font size to 6 rem, semi-bold, select all caps, and change the opacity to 30%. Next, we want to show a little text from the previous sneaker and a little from the next sneaker. To do that, let's select this main list wrapper and change the width to 50%. Center the slider by applying auto margin left and right, then change overflow to visible. This is going to make both slides on each side visible. Let's publish and see our progress. Great, the main slider is working. I see the text, it's sliding. We can also see the previous text, the active text, and the next text. So now let's style the active slide, and we want to style that to be full opacity and full size, while the previous and the next slides should be lower opacity and smaller sides. This will give it the effect of being the active or the slide that the user should look at. In Finsweet Components, the active slide class manages this customization. I'll open Inspector to show you that Finsweet Components adds the class isActiveSlide to the active slide. It also adds isSlidePrevious and isSlideNext to previous and next slides. We need to style these classes to get the effect we're looking for. Inside Finsweet Components, you can change the name of the generated classes before creating the component. Let's continue with the default. I'll select the slide element. It must always be the slide element for this to work, and then add the combo class isSlideActive. And once we have this combo class applied, we can start to add styles in Designer to style the active state. So when the slide is active, I want the font size to increase from 6 to 8 rem, and I also want to change the opacity from 30% to 100%. And that is why we decided to inherit styles from the parent element a minute ago. Now we can apply the transition to text styles through the parent element, which is going to create this really cool zoom in and fade in effect for our text. On the slide class, without the active class applied to it, I'm going to add a transition. I'll select all properties, and this will make the effects feel much more smooth. It's going to add that really nice smooth transition to this text. Let's publish and check our changes. Nice, it's working. Okay, let's continue here. In Webflow Designer, we have our navigation and pagination modules for the main text slider. Let's start styling these and make it look like a production slider. I'll select pagination and move it outside of the navigation wrapper. Let's change the position to absolute and bottom. Font size to 2.5 rem, semi-bold, color white, and 2 rem padding on all sides. For the navigation, let's change the position to absolute with top left, then 2 rem padding, and remove the background color. Let's change the previous and next button from text to arrows. I'll select the previous button and go and select the back arrow image and remove the text. I'll do the same for the next button. Select it, add the image, remove the text. Now let's change the height of the button to 6 rem. Make the background color white and set the radius to 1 rem. Let's publish and check the progress. Great, this is looking really nice. Now let's learn about the controller. We have the main text slider and the images slider. When we change the slides of the main text slider, we want the images slider to change with it in perfect synchronization. To do that, I'll select the main slider, open Finsweet components, select slider, and scroll down to the controller and turn it on. In the control dropdown, I'll select images. The main text slider will now control the images slider. Now click Update Slider, confirm, and let's publish to test. It's working. There we go. We can see both sliders moving together, and as I navigate the main text slider, the sneaker images are following with the text. This is an amazing feature for creating custom sliders. You can make amazing content experiences with this effect. Make sure multiple sliders have the same content in the same order. The content must be aligned for this type of implementation to work. Now, let's add our thumbs to make our slider even better. I'll select the body and open Finsweet components. Select slider, and let's build slider number 3. This one will serve as the thumbs, so we don't need pagination and navigation. I'll turn both of those off. We'll keep 3 slides per view and change space between to 24 pixels. I'll name this slider thumbs and create slider. I'll select the list wrapper and add it to the sneakers CMS collection. Then I'll remove the placeholder and then add an image inside the slide. Let's connect the image with the image field of the CMS collection. Give it a class named thumb_image. Let's change the ratio to square 1:1. Select fit, cover, and change the border radius to 1 rem. I'll select the slide and remove the default padding and the background color. Now let's go change the position of this thumb slider. I'll select the instance wrapper and change the position to absolute, top right, then change the width to 40%. And then I'll do 2 rem padding on all sides. Great, now this thumb slider is looking great, but it's still not working. We need to configure our main slider to use the thumb slider. Let's get into Finsweet components with our main text slider selected. I'll scroll down to the thumbs and turn it on, and then select the thumb slider from the slider dropdown. Let's update slider, confirm, and then publish to see if it's working. There it is, working exactly as expected. When we click on the thumbs, it changes to the respective slide. The thumb slider is synchronized with our main text slider. Nice. To finish our setup, we'll style the disabled state for the navigation arrows and an active thumbnail state for the thumb slides. And we'll also remove this horizontal scrolling on the bottom of the page. To style the disabled state, I'll add the default disabled class to the button, isNavDisabled. And then I'll change the opacity to 50%. When we can't go previous or next in the slider, this disabled state will show. Now the thumbs. Let's select a slide from the thumb slider, and I'll add the default thumbs active class, isThumbActive. I'll add 100% opacity to this combo class, and then 50% opacity on the thumbs slide class. To solve the horizontal scrolling issue, let's add a div block to the page, give it a class called slider wrapper, change overflow to hidden, set position to relative, and then bring all 3 sliders inside this wrapper. This will prevent any horizontal scrolling caused by the slider components. Let's publish and see what we have. Look at this slider component. It looks seamless. It looks absolutely custom. I love it. This will take your project to the next level. This is really a next level slider. Finsweet Components is always free with your Webflow.io staging domain. We'll never charge you to test and build your components. When you're ready to go live, get a subscription to publish to production. You are one step closer to building next level components inside your Webflow project. You can download Finsweet components in the Webflow apps marketplace, and those links are in the description below. Go to finsweet.com/components to learn how we can help you succeed with Webflow. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you want to learn more about how to build awesome websites in Webflow.